the concept of
my brain's creating this false reality where I can't do it. I can't do whatever creative thing. It's some block. Like, no, it's not even. You don't even really have a block. It's just you're imagining a scenario where you're blocked up, and that blocks you. It's like a meta block.
Right.
Anyway.
No, that's very good.
Delicious water.
Stuff that I need to be reminded of daily. It's like you can only I can have only so many thoughts in your head at once. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Essentially, only one thought at once.
We're super limited, super distractible, and we tend to forget. So it's good to have things like the War of Art that you can read as like a meditation.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just open her up to a random page.
Let's read a random page.
Let's see here. There we go. I'm just going to grab the shortest page possible. A professional dedicates himself to mastering technique. The professional respects his craft. He does not consider himself superior to it. He recognizes the contributions of those who have gone before him. He apprentices himself to them. All right, that's what a professional does. I'm going to apprentice myself to those who were before me and
Always
who were greater.
Always remain a student.
Yep.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Nashville Artist Podcast. I'm your host, Jordan, and today we have Nathan Sletner here.
What's up?
How's it going?
Pretty good, man.
Well,
It's good to see you again.
I know, in the flesh.
Yeah.
Not through digital world. That's how we're seeing everyone right now.
That's true.
So you're from California, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little town called Redding. Way up north, about an hour and a half south of the Oregon border. It's known for a mega church and meth. That's basically all it's got going on up there.
The Ewoks live up there, don't they?
Yeah, they're right around that area.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll go out in the woods at night and I'll hear them chanting.
Luca, Luca, Lula.
You know what? Do you hate the Ewoks?
I love the Ewoks.
Yeah, you know what?
Dude, I would love to have an Ewok.
I'm neutral toward the Ewoks.
Yeah.
They neither annoy me nor do they really add to the movie. I mean, they're a nice little comic relief. That whole scene might have been a bit long for my taste, but a lot of people they got that Ewok hate, and I think they should check their hearts because they got some sort of fuzzy prejudice. You know what I mean?
Are you talking about the scene when they're in the tree fort villages, or
Yeah.
where like they're all being bound upside down or whatever?
Yeah, I think that scene, that whole part of Return of the Jedi, is what binds a lot of people from being able to enjoy Return of the Jedi as much as Empire Strikes Back. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I think Empire's the one." And I didn't realize why. I mean, it is a great movie, but someone was just telling me recently, like, "Yeah, it's the Ewoks. I just can't deal with the Ewoks." I'm like, "Really?
Really?
Can't get past a little cheese in this otherwise also still pretty cheesy movie?"
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah,
I love Star Wars, but
So do I.
there's gobs of cheese to be had. Anyway.
we'll eat it up.
Yeah, exactly. Some good, nice sharp cheddar, maybe a little Gouda.
Definitely. So, are you? Do you have any siblings?
No, only child.
Okay.
Only child. Yeah.
Nice. So, did your parents play music?
My dad does. Yeah, he's a guitar player. So he got me interested in music. He was very purposeful in like teaching me about it. He never went like high concept. We didn't dive into theory or anything. But I remember even as a very young child, he would purposefully play me all different kinds of music, and he would, as he's doing it, he would be like, "Okay, so there's this little line right here. Da, 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 da. What instrument's playing that?" And I would have to tell him like, "Oh, that's the guitar, or that's a violin." Like I would have to tell him. Then he'd be like, "Okay, what's the bass doing? What's this guy doing with his snare drum?" Like all these questions about what was happening in the song. So he started developing my ear when I was little, and he was into lots of like. He dug Santana, I guess / digs Santana. He still digs him. Santana and a bunch of like those kind of cats, really into Journey, Neil Sean's guitar playing, and also the really guitar-y music like Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, that kind of stuff. He's a guitar player, so that kind of tripped his trigger. So I was introduced to instrumental prog when I was young, and I remember he taught me how to count music. He's like, all right, so like this is how you count a bar: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then after I understood it and I was able to count, he would have me count different songs. Like, give me the count here, and he goes, all right, this song is by a band called Los Lobotomies. It's called Party in Simon's Pants, and it's in 17. I'm like, it's in 17? What? I was like, come on, that is so cool. Like, you can make stuff that's in like crazy time signatures. That got me interested in technical music very young,
Yeah, I bet. Jeez. So when did you pick up the sticks?
I think I grabbed them for the first time and really was like, yeah, this is it. Around 9, there was a worship event at my church. They had put on a big concert. And the drummer, whose name is Don Ajamian, he was out there rocking it. He's great player, fantastic groove, awesome feel. I was backstage, which I was a lot, but I went and just grabbed a pair of his sticks from a stick bag backstage, and I just started beating on the ground and beating on the walls, and I'm just having a blast. That is the moment that I would identify as when I was like, yeah, I want to be a drummer. I want to drum. And so I told my parents, and they got me some sticks, got me a pad, and a friend of ours, my dad's a business partner at the time, actually, a guy named Rob Chapman, he loaned me one of his snare drums. He was a drummer as well. And just like, you can learn everything on just this. This is enough. I'm like, okay, I don't really understand what that means. The snare drum's really loud by itself, but I'll beat on it, whatever. And I beat on the pad, and I beat on the snare, and whatever. And they put me in lessons within a couple months of that, which I was scared to do. But I'm so grateful that they pushed me into that. Because that first drum lesson that I had with this guy named Steve Joseph, a guy from Wales, who still lives in my hometown in Reading, I remember at the end of the lesson, he asked me a question that ultimately changed my life. And that was, okay, what do you want out of these lessons? And I thought about it, and I said, well, I want to be a drummer. And he said, okay, now you are. Now what? I'm like, oh, there's not a level that you get to where you become, quote, a drummer. It's just a state of mind. When you choose to be a drummer, you're a drummer. And now it's just about how good of a drummer do I want to be. And that, for me, in that moment, opened that up for me. Like, oh, there's not a stopping point where now you're a drummer and now you don't have to think about it. I'm like, no, I want to be really, really good drummer. I want to be as good as I possibly can. Yeah. So that was really what got me going.
Yeah, that's a great question. I wish I had been asked that when I started playing drums.
I'm grateful for it.
That's a mind-boggling thing at a young age to ponder.
Yeah.
Why did you said you were afraid or you didn't want to take lessons? Why were you opposed to it?
I think part of it is the only child thing, and a little bit of being socially awkward, being nervous with people. I'm nervous with new people. Going into a situation that I'm totally unfamiliar freaks me out. And I've learned to lean into that a little more. I still need to do it better. Honestly, it just scared me, the idea of, I'm going to go to this thing and, what if I am like, I don't know, my brain creates all these negative scenarios. What if I'm like a disappointment to this person? I can't even figure out what they're trying to tell me. I'm inferior. My brain can't handle the thing they're trying to pass to me, and it turns out I can't be good at this thing, and I'm just an embarrassment. my brain spirals into that kind of negativity pretty easily. So I have to bite back hard against that and just say, no, I'm going to do that. And thank God my mom made me do a variety of things that I hated, various sports, and like that was just not for me for the most part. I liked soccer, and I liked martial arts. We did a lot of that. That was fun. If I had to take a guess, I would probably say my mom, like, no, you really need to get in there and like, go do that. She was always the one pushing me to get into those uncomfortable situations. I'm sure I expressed my fear at that. I'm like, I don't know. I don't think what if I can't do it? It's like, no, you're going. You're going to do it. You're going to try it at least. You don't have to stick with it, but you're going to try it. You're going to do at least a month, one lesson a week.
Oh yeah, that was great. You told me your dad played guitar, and that's kind of how you learned or whatever. But what artists and musicians were your heroes? Like you're like that guy or that person's a badass. I want to be like them.
Oh man, okay. Let's see. I'm gonna try to go kind of through semi-chronologically through like my youth of like who really stuck out to me. I would say early on, John Bonham probably became my earliest major influence. Loved Bonham, loved Zeppelin. I got really into Steely Dan. Once I discovered them, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. I just remember I was watching some like PBS live thing, and they were playing Black Friday. I was like, oh, this is cool. I like this music. What is this? Is Steely Dan. All right. I'm like, oh, the guy singing kind of looks like a rat. I'm into it. Sorry, Donald, if you're listening. But I'm sure you know you look kind of like a rat. But yeah, I loved all that stuff. But I got into like the fusion thing early on. You know, just with my dad listening to stuff like Steve Vai and Satch. There was a lot of technical music to be had, and I got that early immature instrumentalist thing where it's like, oh, if it's not technical, it's not good. Like, oh, you know, well, you guys like Good Charlotte, but Good Charlotte's not even very good at their instruments, so they suck. Like I got into that total dweeby, pretentious, immature musician thing. But I loved all that kind of like early journey. The first 3 albums, I don't know if a lot of people aren't aware of this. You might not be aware of this. The first 3 Journey albums, there's no Steve Perry, and they were a full-blown prog fusion band, like shredding solos and odd time signatures and crazy arrangements and like metric modulation and all of that stuff. Their first 3 albums, it's nuts. And the drummer's name is Ainsley Dunbar. To this day, probably maybe my biggest influence, just because of how formative it was for me. When I realized like Ainsley was on a song called "I'm Gonna Leave You," he's playing a shuffle, his right hand on the ride cymbal, and he starts playing fills with his left hand across the kit. I was like, he's not breaking the shuffle. The shuffle is still going, and he's doing fills between his left hand and his right foot. This guy's crazy. And then from there, I kind of dove into the extreme independence thing. People like Marco Miniman and Virgil Donati. Praise the Lord, I actually, as you know, I ended up teching for Verge on a tour, which was awesome. A great experience to be around that guy and find out that it's always great to find out that your heroes are cool people, because there are so many scenarios where that's not the case. You're like, oh, this guy's awesome, and you're like, this guy's a dickhead. And Virgil is not. Virgil is a super cool dude. He's a great guy. All that kind of stuff. I got into players like Ron Bruner and Mason Guidry, Mike Mitchell, cats that just have like insane facility on the drums. Just can kind of do anything, accomplish anything physically. I love that. It's Mike calls it being really sporty, a sporty drummer. That always trips my trigger. There's you can't just listen to that for an hour straight. It's like because it doesn't tug on your heartstrings. But yeah, I that was kind of the order that I went in, and then I got into like the more dancey stuff and like pop bass things that make you want to move. And I kind of ended up coming to the conclusion that basically 3 categories of music that trips my trigger, and is it danceable? 1, does it tug on your heartstrings? 2, and is it interesting or challenging? 3. And most music has one of the 3. If you can get 2 out of 3, you're doing really well, and if you can get 3 out of 3, you're knocking it out of the park. And there are very few groups doing all 3, but that's what I'm into.
Or which bands or whoever would you say has all 3?
Straight off the bat, man, who would I say has all 3? I you know what? Here's an example of all 3 in an album. Grace by Jeff Buckley. That album has incredible technical proficiency and interesting ideas. It makes you want to move. And if that album at some point doesn't just rip your heart out, then I don't know who you are. That's a great example right there. Then Snarky Puppy would be like, I mean, their tagline used to be music for the brain and booty. So it's like, it's really interesting, and it makes you want to move. And occasionally they'll tug on the heartstrings too, but mostly it's the brain and the booty.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The brain and the booty.
Yeah, I know, isn't that great? I love that.
I'm gonna remember that. That's awesome. You lived in Reading for how long before you moved to Nashville?
28 years.
Okay, so you moved here when you were 28 in Nashville.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
4 years.
What made you decide to move to Nashville?
Well, I had been in a band that, it's funny because, everyone has been in a band that was, air quotes, gonna make it, man. My band was gonna make it. But really, I mean, I had this group. We had great tunes, great players, a great crew of guys that I believed fully respected and understood each other. And we had all the financial backing and network needs that you could want. We had a guy managing us who is a former record executive from here, from Nashville. And he told us with no uncertainty early on that, and this was absolutely true. This was not like hyperbole on his part. He was like, if I can make a phone call, and because I'm in the inner circle of these people, I can do more in one phone call than really you can do in 3 years of doing footwork. And that was a fact, and he proved that quite over and over. But bottom line, one of the members of the band made a decision that cost us that relationship, and that was unfortunate because I really loved those dudes and I loved that music. But essentially, the chief songwriter in the band and myself both just decided, well, why not still move to Nashville since this guy's connections are all out here? And that was really it. He moved out here, and then him and his family, his wife and their 3 kids, and then my wife and I followed suit a little over 2 months later. We had said, we're like, if you guys go, we're going. And I think because a couple other members in the group kind of said they'd go, and it just didn't end up happening. I think they kind of felt like, well, we'll see. You'll see if you put your money where your mouth is. We're like, no, we're going. We said we're going. We're going. So we came out here sight unseen. Like didn't take a trip to visit. We're just like we found an apartment online, and we went into it. Saw it for the first time when we arrived in Nashville.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was scary as hell.
I bet.
Yeah.
Coming all the way from California, driving.
With everything that we owned in the world in a truck. Like and I drove the moving truck towing my wife's car, and she drove my car. So we weren't even in the same vehicle for the entire trip. We're on little radios talking to each other. Accidentally interrupting each other. Wait, did you say something? Yes! I said I need to pee! Oh, okay. Well, okay. Me too. Yeah.
That's awesome. How many times have you moved around outside of Nashville? Like,
Is it 3 times now? Or 4? Well, 4. Yeah.
wow, now you're in West Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Where's been like your favorite place to play here?
Man, I have really enjoyed a couple different spots for different reasons. I loved playing 5 spot. That was like doing Sunday Night Soul, doing that stuff. That's been some of my favorite times. Rudy's is a blast, and I played Rudy's with some of the same crew that I played 5 spot with. As far as cover gigs go, as far as like the Broadway thing, I love playing Kid Rocks.
Really?
Yeah. Funny enough, I avoided Broadway like the plague when I first moved here. Like, no, I don't have any interest in doing that. But some of my friends have put together a pretty strong group, and they're doing so well out there that kind of their innovation it seems like it's affecting the rest of Broadway. Because every time I talk to somebody about, oh, my friends play over Broadway. Oh, what band? It's Taylor Martin Band. My buddy Seth Carlson plays guitar. Oh my God, that guy's incredible. That band is so good. They play Bohemian Rhapsody. You never hear that. It's insane. I'm like, yeah, they're really, really good. But I think the attitude of Broadway musicians is changing a little bit, rather than like it being some of the lowest common denominator. Like, well, we just want to play songs. Kind of we don't even need to rehearse. We just learn the songs as they are on the record, and then we'll just play them. Like now, bands are like, well, okay, yeah, that's the bass line. That's the least amount of work, and then let's rehearse original ways of putting these songs together. Those bands are starting to rise to the top. It's always, cream always rises. My dad told me that 1,000,000 times. Cream always rises. He was right.
Damn. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great, because I remember when I first moved here, I was like, oh, Broadway, no. But now that I hear stories, like they're changing how the music's played, and not everyone has to play Freebird every time someone...
Well,
or you just change that up.
Well, and here's the great thing about Freebird. It's $100 song.
Oh, wow.
So that's part of the thing. You say, like, oh, someone says Freebird, you're like, ha, like, that's great. We'd love to play Freebird. It'll be $100. And it doesn't have to come from one person. It can be $5 from you, 10 from you. Like point around the room, blah blah blah. You get us $100, we will play Freebird and we'll rip your damn face off with it. And that's what they do in that group. They're like, yeah, we'll do that. So it's Bohemian Rhapsody, Freebird, and Wagon Wheel are all $100 songs.
Oh God, yeah. Imagine Wagon Wheel.
Oh God. I will tell you this. Sometimes people just pay because they can. They'll just toss it out. I had one guy pay $500 for Rocky Top. And we would have played it for 20, but Rocky Top, $500, just threw it down right there.
Wow,
that was a good night.
And your little jar.
Yeah.
And then you split that between 5 people. Or,
yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sick. Yeah, and you get to play in front of massive crowds.
Yeah, when massive crowds are available.
Yeah.
Right now, it's
what is that like?
Maximum capacity is however many people they can seat, and so no one is allowed to stand and dance. If you're standing and dancing, you're going to get either asked to sit back down or get out.
Oh wow!
So yeah, they're good about that.
So it's how many people they can seat? Because I haven't been on Broadway in over a year.
Yeah, but still, the people who are going out are. I think you're getting a higher percentage of those who would be tipping anyway, because the tips are still pretty good. It's still at like maybe 2/3 of what was being made, and yet it's not even at half capacity. It's like a quarter of what it used to be. So those who have put themselves through it enough to go, yeah, I'm just gonna go out and have a good time. They're kind of like, we are the diamonds. Pressure and heat has made us strong, and we will tip well.
Man, yeah, that's awesome. Maybe I'll play on Broadway one day.
Yeah, man. just get yourself go through the list of a place of the songs that you would like. Like I like Kid Rock's because I'm more
rock and roll.
Yeah, more of that, rock and roll stuff, and that's more fun for me than playing at, I don't know, Redneck Riviera or something where you have to play a bunch of pop country stuff. And like that, I would blow my brains out if I had to do that every night.
Yeah, no, I like that at all.
Yeah.
Rock and roll stuff. Okay, awesome. So, like, when you moved to Nashville, now that you've been here, would you say it's been everything you've thought, or what have you learned?
I mean, it's in a way it's everything I thought and more, and yet it's also it's infinitely different than I imagined it being. The South is as friendly as I had heard it can be. There are a lot of it's funny because being from California, there's a kind of perception of the South that I think is just straight up wrong. I think they kind of think of Southerners as being backwards and primitive, kind of just morons who you go to the South and everybody's racist and stupid. I'm like, that's just utterly just nonsense. That's just nonsense. I personally, and I don't want to go too much into it, but I'm like, I know more people from California. I ran into more people out there who I felt like had some sort of racism or prejudice than I ever have out here. It's not even close. But I would say the friendliness of people out here alone makes it worth the journey. Like, I got here, at the end of that trip, I pulled into what I thought was our apartment complex. Come to find out it wasn't the right one. I'm in the moving truck. I'm towing her car. I can't turn it around in there at all. It took us over an hour to get out of that parking lot. And then we pull up into what was the correct parking lot for our actual apartment building. And I realized the same exact thing is going to happen in there. Even though it's the right place, I'm still like, oh, I can't turn it around in here. Seth, my friend, my mentor, he's there. He's watching me struggle with this. My brand new neighbor who doesn't know me at all, he's up on his stoop smoking a cig. He puts it out, walks down, he goes, "You want me to turn it around for you?" "You do that?" "Sure would." Seth goes, "Travis is a third generation mover. He knows what he's doing." I'm like, "The cockpit is yours, mover man. You got it." He moves it. The very next thing, I'm sure this isn't the next thing he actually said to me, but the next thing I remember him saying to me is, "Y'all got somewhere to be for Thanksgiving?" "No." "Well, you just come on over to my place. Don't be bashful. You're in Nashville." I was like, "You are kidding me. The South is awesome. This is the best." And I learned something. It's Nashville. Like, wait, what about Louisville? It's Louisville. Oh, well, that's really upsetting. But anyway, yeah, dude, I would say, musically speaking, if we're going into just that, I would also say it's been what I imagined and more. I think I got here at a great time because the scene for music that I'm interested in, which is kind of music outside of the CCM, Christian stuff, and pop country, all of the things outside of that circle, which is a massive circle, that stuff's starting to pop off. Prog rock, math rock, funk, jazz, whatever, electro pop, everything outside of that massive circle of the traditional Nashville thing. "Oh, you're moving to Nashville? Oh, so I didn't know you were into country music." I'm not. And I don't have to be. I can play other things. I've done a plethora of sessions out here that have jack shit to do with pop country or CCM. Like, they're like cool of like punk rock stuff and like, Police influenced 80s pop punk. And just everything you can think of, it's out here. Reggae, yeah.
Yeah, dude, I love it. That's why I love
salsa bands.
Yeah, East Nashville, dude.
Yep.
It's the conglomerate of the weird and the indie and the unknown.
Yeah.
Kind of the UFOs are out here.
Yeah, I know. I need to spend more time in East. once things are open again, I need to develop my haunts, because that's one thing I learned was I had a drummer who was younger than me, but who was moving away, and he'd had a pretty decent career out here, and he introduced me to a bunch of people at his going away party, and then it was at a bar. It was like Crying Wolf, and he like put his arm around me at the end of the night, like gave me the "come here, young man" thing, even though like again he's like 6 years younger than me. Like, yeah, you know all these badasses that I introduced you to tonight? Yeah, I met most of them here. He goes, yeah, you get it. You gotta start going out, man. And that's my weakness is, again, it's the social anxiety thing that I talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. So for me, realizing that I have to actually be in a scene to be in a scene. I have to physically go to a place to be considered for such and such gig. Like that was hard for me to understand, both being, an only child with some social anxiety stuff, and also having grown up in a town in which that kind of networking was just literally purposeless. Like there's no reason to network in Reading. Nobody's doing anything.
Really? How big is it?
I think it might be as much as 100,000 people now, but it's not. I mean, it's not a music gigging town, and I wanted to be a gigging musician, so I could have tried to play drums for Bethel, but I didn't have any interest in that whatsoever. Yeah.
Awesome. Since you were the drum tech for Virgil, what are some things that you learned from that? Because I can only imagine.
I learned quite a lot. First of all,
Virgil Donati, for everyone, is an amazing Australian drummer, right? Mm-hmm. Super prog.
Yep.
Technical, has all the facility in the world.
I would argue that Virgil is the most. He can do his stats. If you're looking at him like a video game character, he can just do more things than other humans can do. He can just, every limb a different time signature. If you like, you could just name him off, and he would just be able to blast them out. And he's just incredible. What did I learn from Verge? Well, I learned, first of all, how well that dude takes care of himself.
Oh, really?
He's 62 now. Is he 62?
He definitely doesn't look it.
I know, right? Yeah, he's probably maybe in his 40s, maybe 50s. Like he's 62, and he's still buff. He still works out all the time, and he has his like routines. He's like, okay, we'll get a coffee in the morning, and he'll do his thing, and then as he's finishing his coffee, he opens up his bag of goodies, and like out from the bag, he'll bring out his cacao powder. And he's like, all right, time to do the cacao. It's the world's strongest natural antioxidant. And just pound some cacao, and he's got all his vitamins and various salves. He's got eucalyptus oil for anytime he got bit by bugs. All those kind of things. He was prepped and ready for that, and that was, I learned like, oh, well, if you really want to have that kind of ability and last, be in the condition that he's in his 60s, then you absolutely must not only be exercising, which is kind of like, come on people, that's obvious at this point. You need your exercise, you live longer. You just will. That's it. But you also need to be proactive in your nutrition and taking care of your body by putting good things into it, which is incredibly difficult on the road. Even if you're stopping at Whole Foods and doing that, that's still like, you should bring stuff along with you from home that's gonna supplement your nutrition and make your life better. That's a big thing I learned as far as the technical stuff, all the accounting stuff. I would be like, hey Verge, what is it that you're doing? How did you get to the point where you can just kind of phrase in whatever subdivision freely, and you never ever get lost? Always that dude is going to nail the one every time. Just his sense of time is probably the best on earth. And he's like, well, it really is just, it's what everyone says. You just count. It's like, I've gone through each of these phrases. Essentially, he's gone through every possibility. And he's like, okay, I know how many times it has to be played for me to come back around to the one. Like, if I'm going to play this thing through over the bar line, it'll come back around here. He's like, I know. So I know if I start a phrase wherever, I always know where I am. I can't. Essentially, you can't get lost. When I asked him that question, he's like, yeah, it's so funny. Chris Coleman asked me the same thing. I'm like, man, Chris Coleman's like another one of those dudes who is just impossible to be like, can you get lost? If I spun you around really fast and like blindfolded you, slapped you in the mouth and set your legs on fire, would you still know where one is? He's like, definitely, I'd know. But yeah, if even Chris Coleman is asking Virgil Donati that, then you know he can get out there and still just come right back down to earth.
He's that dynamite.
Yeah, exactly. Dynamite. If you guys have never seen Black Dynamite, you're doing yourself a disservice. Get on it.
Yeah, I need to see that.
Oh man, it's so hilarious. Who the hell is interrupting my kung fu?
Oh, I've seen parts of it,
dude. I'm such a giant fan of that movie.
What is it called again?
Black Dynamite.
Black Dynamite. I gotta watch that.
It's incredible. Michael Jai White is freaking hilarious, and he's a real life badass.
Damn, that is hilarious. What is one absurd thing you love to do?
Oh, one absurd. Oh God. I'm trying to think of things that aren't illegal. Well, I actually have a Christmas tradition, which I shouldn't even go into that. No. Okay, we'll talk about that some other time. I'll give you another one. For those of you who are listening this far, if we become really good friends, I'll tell you about my Christmas tradition. Otherwise, this is not. It's not for the faint of heart. I work part-time at Daddy's Dogs.
And that's a hot dog place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We are the hot dog place. We won Best Hot Dog in Nashville for the last 2 years.
Where is that again?
51st and Centennial in the Nations, West Nash. I also got a pop-up little window in Printer's Alley, and we do carts all over. We'll do a cart in Midtown or on Demumbrian. I'm just giving an example. So obviously the way you want to answer the phone is, this is so unprofessional. I'm guessing my bosses won't be hearing this. So, and if they do, whatever. But you want to answer the phone, Daddy's Dogs, Nations, but I just answer the phone, hot dog, and I'll just leave it there. And I will hear the confusion in the silence as people process, he said hot dog. That's not the name of the place I'm calling, but the place I'm calling does serve hot dogs, and that's what I want. I was calling to get a hot dog. And they'll pause, and then they'll be, can I get an order for pickup? Yeah, sure. And then after that, I'm very helpful, but I just give them hot dog. That is my sense of humor. I just like throw in a little bit of absurdist, like surreal whatever into a otherwise regular interaction, so that people are like, I still think I know what's going on, but I have no idea why whatever just happened.
Right. Dude, I love that. I experimented. I had little social experiments when I was a barista. I would make little signs that said, look over there. And when they would look over there was nothing there.
at Red Bike?
Yeah. And then they'd be, what's up with the sign? I'm like, no, that's it.
Oh, man.
You looked over there and that's all that was there. Or I'd have this one sign that said, pet the plant for $1. And people would like, what kind of plant is this? And then be like, wow. And then they'd pet it, but hey, it's $1. And they're like, oh, okay. And they'd put the tip in the jar or whatever. And then one guy goes, is it really $1 to pet the plant? And I was like, yeah. He's like, well, I'm not doing it. And I was like, You don't have to,
You
man.
don't have to. You're not even supposed to pet plants, man. I'm not doing it.
He's like, well, I'm not going to do it. He walks away, and I was like, wait, all right, man. I had this one sign that's...
Is it really $1 for me to do a handstand in the middle of your business? Yes. Well, I'm not going to do it. You weren't going to do it anyway, man.
I know.
You weren't even thinking about it until I brought it up. That tells you how hypnotizable people are. Seriously.
Right.
It's actually scary to think about. You're like, you're now upset at me for you not being able to do something without paying me that you never would have even considered doing if I hadn't brought it up. That's insane. That's insane. People are crazy.
Just putting subliminal messages into people's heads.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I remember one more sign story. I had one sign next to the register that said, "Why did the monkey die?" Or no.
Why did the monkey fall out of the tree?
Yeah, why did the monkey fall out of the tree?
That-
And then they're like, why did the monkey fall out of the tree? And I was like, he was dead. And so this one guy goes, "That's not funny. That's just dark." And I'm like, welcome to my sense of humor.
Yeah. Well, dude, I used to do this joke all the time whenever there would be a down moment at a concert, which I loved doing because we did mostly pop country covers, and we would just like go crazy the whole time. It was like it was hilarious, like shreddy over pop country stuff. It was a band called Cattle Rocket. You guys can look us up if you want. But whenever we'd have some sort of technical difficulty, stall for a minute, I would just get up, grab a microphone, and telling this joke to people who are like only half there mentally, and then they're also drunk, was so satisfying. I would say, grasshopper walks into a bar. Bartender says, "Hey, we've got a drink named after you." Grasshopper says, "You've got a drink named Doug?" And then I would just walk back to the kit, and I would pretend I'd never got up. People would just stare at me confusedly, and it was very satisfying.
And then you got them off of what they were thinking about negatively.
And people, I remember a lot of times people would go, "What?" And we also used to do this thing. We would be doing "Don't Stop Believing," and at the end, we would dun 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 ba 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 ba, and then the singer would go bark 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 bark, go into a chicken voice version of it. They would, and then the bassist bark 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 bark, and I would get up on top of my throne, stand up, grab my mic, bark 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 bark, go into a full-on chicken Steve Perry, and we would do that, and then jump back down and go back and finish the song. And we would lose 98% of the people. 98% of the people would just be like, "What the fuck was that?" But then we would have like one or two people come up to us after the show and be like, "That was the funniest thing I have ever seen. I have no idea why you did that. You guys are awesome." I'm like, "We did it for you. We did it because we knew that we would make..." No one remembers a cover band. But when you do something like that, they remember you forever. Remember that band that did the chicken version of "Don't Stop Believing" for no reason? Yeah, I will never forget that band. And that's why you do it.
Hell yeah. That's how often are you able to get away with doing that song?
We did it every show.
Oh, really?
We did it every single show. Now, if only the guitarist would move out here to Nashville, I would start doing that out on Broadway.
When was the last time you played on Broadway?
Just a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Actually, right before the snow. Actually, the night of the snow. Yeah, I played a Kid Rock's stint.
Sick.
Yeah.
How often do you play there?
I'm trying to play there more and more, but a couple times a month. I would really like to be. I would personally like to do that kind of as my gig for now, because it's just it pays better than my job.
Yeah.
And I'd rather be playing drums.
Right.
And as long as I'm playing Kid Rocks, I'm able to play tunes that I'm like, I actually dig this. Oh, we can play, Stone Temple Pilots. play Rage Against the Machine, a bunch of 90s rock, 80s rock, and like, whatever, early 2000s stuff that I actually enjoyed listening to. And I'm like, okay, great. I'm for that. Like I'd love to be doing that weekly. So hopefully in the next month I'll be able to start doing more of that. That's my desire.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, as we kind of wrap things up here, is there anything else you want to add or tell everyone in the community?
Anything I want to tell anyone in the community? You mean just in life or about myself? Or like
just your 2 cents of, or here's one. What advice would you give to a musician either moving here or already here?
My advice would be make a plan. Don't just go blindly into it. If your plan is to go full bore into networking, you're like, I'm gonna save up money and then I'm just gonna go out and I'm just gonna network and I'm gonna do nonstop that until I land a gig. Cool. Great. That's a plan and awesome. If your plan is I'm going to get a job right away and I'm going to do music in the meantime, that's also good. Just if you're trying to do music, make sure that you have some sort of financial plan, because you're going to get screwed if you get down to the wire and you're like, well, I guess I might be living in my car because I haven't landed anything yet and I didn't really plan ahead, and that's scary. You're like, okay, well, how am I going to survive? You don't want to have that question. Personally, I wish that I would have done 2 things differently when I got here. One, I wish I would have immediately searched for a regular job, and I wish that I would have gone hard into going out when I wasn't working and networking, forcing myself into that. So do that. Make sure you're not going to starve. Make sure your finances are taken care of, and go out. Find the spots that are playing music that you like, and or in the area, at least in the vicinity of those things, and be a part of that community. That's my advice. Do that and you'll do great. And it's helpful to be really good at your craft, whatever that is. And of course, don't be a dick.
Yeah, it's number 1. Don't be a dick.
Yep.
All right, awesome. Well, how can people talk to you and reach you or watch what you do, or what are your handles? Or
if you want to find me on Instagram at Nathan _Sletner, Sletner. Yeah, that's me. I get every kind of misspelling one could possibly imagine.
Sletner.
Oh yeah, Sletner is that is the purposeful misspelling.
Right.
But I get Slenter, Slater. I say my name and then people, okay, Mr. Slenter. I'm like, did I say Slenter? Do you think that I misspoke my last name?
Slenter.
I'm like, how about 1, listen to me when I'm saying my name, and 2, learn to sound words out when you're reading them. The T comes before the N. It would be a Sletner. Okay, Mr. Slater. Son of a bitch! I actually got Sleuth. Wow. From the DMV.
Wow.
Yep.
Mr. Sleuth.
Yep.
Wow.
Imagine that, a government entity that's incapable of doing things well. I've never heard of that.
Bureaucratic nightmare.
Yep.
Do you have any special things coming out or any?
Yeah. Okay. I'm working on multiple projects right now. I've got an album coming out with my band Fly in Formation, which I'm very excited about. We just got all the final mixes and it sounds phenomenal. It's kind of for people who like Pliny, maybe a little twinge of some video game goodness in there. Pliny in intervals with a video game twist. There's a moment in one of the songs that actually was programmed by hand to sound exactly like the mushroom sound from Mario. So you get hit by the mushroom, you grow, and then it goes immediately into a really heavy section, which is very satisfying. Got that. Working on some stuff with a guy named Tabor Mullins, who's a beast, and he lives in Cincinnati, and that's gonna be like that dude. That guy's a freaking genius, and he's somewhere between like Tigran Hamasyan and Chan. I don't know. Tabor is the future, and got some stuff in the works also with a guitarist here in town named Tony Campanovo, and another guy named Jesse Brock. We're doing some proggy goodness on both accounts, and I've got a couple groups I play with. I play with Coco O'Connor, doing some Americana folk stuff, which I really love. I love everyone in that band, and we've actually put an album out last year, which I'm very proud of what we did. And I'm also working with a band called Suitcase Souls. Their album just came out. I'm not on that album, but they did just put out an album, and I am the now drummer. Oh, yeah. Not the then drummer. I'm the now drummer.
I've been that before.
Yeah. So any of those groups, actually I'm playing at Suitcase Souls. This won't be out by then, but I'm playing with them this week.
Okay.
But you guys don't need to know that because this won't be out by that time.
Dude, great having you on the podcast.
Dude, thanks for having me over.
Yeah.